Hello, welcome to the Ethics and Research presentation. This presentation is based on Bryman and Bell's Chapter 5 and also then focuses on the completion of the Kenny Business School Research Ethics Form. So what is ethical research? Well, we use the definition by Dinar and Chandler. Yes, it's 1978, but it still has application today. They say that behaving ethically means that no harm comes to research participants. Participants agree to participate and have knowledge and understanding of what the research is about. Their privacy is not invaded and they're not lied to or cheated. So the next couple of slides are going to look at these four elements of Dinar and Chandler's definition of behaving ethically. So how can you harm research participants? Well, causing stress, breaking their confidentiality, revealing their identity can all cause harm to your research participants. So when you're conducting research, you always need to consider at the back of your mind, am I causing harm to these participants? Am I causing them stress? Am I damaging them in any particular way? Am I hurting them? That has to be always considered. If you believe that you are causing them harm, you need to stop the research because otherwise it is an unethical practice that you are doing. Research participants must know that they are participants in a piece of research, and they also understand the research process. But as Hohmann indicates, this is easier said than done because, let's say, for example, you were observing participants, but you're observing participants in a shopping centre. It's going to be impossible to inform everybody that they are research participants. However, you need to, where possible, inform the participants that they are participating in research. So this has to be maybe identified when participants are coming into a shopping centre, that you can put a sign up saying that observation is being done, or you approach the individuals and ask them, do they want to participate in such observation or such research? Invasion of privacy. Privacy is very much linked to the notion of informed consent. So even by getting informed consent does not actually give you the right to invade their privacy. We have to make sure that if we're doing certain methods, such as covert methods, that the participant actually is aware that that is a method of the research. Because if we don't inform them of those methods, well, then we are actually invading their privacy. The issue of privacy is linked to issues of anonymity and confidentiality in the research process. You will see at the end of this presentation a document concerning informed consent. So to ensure that we don't invade the privacy of the participant, we should get them to sign a consent form. And we should make sure that if we promise anonymity, that we don't actually relate the participants' responses to their name or to any means by which we would actually breach their anonymity. And lastly, Dinar and Chandler, 1978, said about we shouldn't lie to the researcher. And deception usually means we represent our research as something other than it is. So participants will respond more naturally. But by deceiving our participants, we're actually lying to them. And this, though, is widespread practice. We must be vigilant in keeping deception to a minimum, and when it is necessary to the research, mitigating its degree and effects as much as possible. So how do we complete the Chemie Business Research Ethics form? So the next 20 slides actually relate to completing the form and also providing you with some additional information on informed consent, etc. So the Chemie Business School Research Ethics form has to be completed by everybody who is engaging with human subjects. It is always good to even consider writing up a research ethics form, just in case you decide to change your research methodology during your research, and then you would have prior research ethics approval. You have to get research ethics approval before conducting any form of research with human subjects. The front page of the research ethics form asks for a number of basic information: your name, and if this is done in a group, you list the name of all group members on the front of the research ethics form, the ID number of everybody, their email addresses, the program of study. In this case, it's a Master's in International Entrepreneurship Management, or it could be MBA student, or it could be a Bachelor of Business Studies students. What project you're working on. You could be working on your strategic commercialization plan. It could be a business consulting report. It could be a final year project for undergraduate students. In the working title of the project, you are not asked for the definitive title, but one that you have when applying for your research ethics form. Then you need to identify the supervisor and the course leader of the program that you are participating on. You then are asked a question: does the proposed research involve working with human subjects? If you intend talking to people, talking to faculty, talking to business people, that is working with human subjects. So you indicate yes. Even if you're observing people, you are working with human subjects. So you have to indicate yes. What is best to do here is to actually delete altogether the word no and the box beside it, and just have yes and maybe a tick beside it. If, however, you propose not to work with human subjects and you're just working on secondary information, you just proceed to sign the form, date the form, and attach it to your project. However, if you do indicate yes, you need to now continue with supplying the rest of the form with information, such as your research plan. What do you plan to do? Here you identify the aim of the research, the objective of the research, and you need to complete this in 50 to 100 words. 50 is the minimum word count and 100 is the maximum. Next, you identify your research methodology, and you can break this down based on identifying that you will be doing primary research with certain individuals, a sampling approach, if you're going to do it online or if you're going to do it by observation, or maybe mixed methods. And again, minimum 100 words, maximum 150 words. What's very important here is that all of this is typed out and it's not done in a pen. The next 3 sections ask you a series of yes/no questions. And here again, I recommend that you delete the answer that is not applicable, rather than highlighting it or doing a circle or something like that. The reason being is at the end of the day, you have to print out your research ethics form. And if you highlight electronically your response, this will not be seen very well in the printed form. So you need to answer these series of questions, yes or no. So the first area is in relation to human subjects. The next is in relation to the subject matter. And then on the procedures. Now, we will discuss later on if you answer yes to any of the section 1 through to 3 here, human subjects, subject matter and procedures. Following on from section 3 on procedures, we have some detailed questions where we ask basic information about who your informants will be. The Research Ethics Committee prefer you to provide some detailed content here. You don't just say that your informants will be individuals, just a word here. You need to actually put some thought to your responses on each of your answers in section 4. You need to expand, provide some detailed content on whether or not you have a pre-existing relationship with the informants. But if you don't have a pre-existing relationship, just state no existing relationship exists with the informants, as they are randomly chosen from a publicly identified database or something to that extent. How do you gain access to, how do you gain contact with, and how do you approach potential informants? There's sort of 2 to 3 questions here. The first one is, how do you gain access to your potential informants? This could be that you identify them from databases that are available online, that you identify a list of respondents from a company's web page. That's how you gain access to. Now the latter half is, how do you contact or approach them? So you might be saying that you initially contact them through an email, and then you approach them maybe in the offices of the business. So you need to divide this answer into 2 to 3 different ways of answering it, by access, contact and approach. What arrangements have you made for anonymity and confidentiality? Again, I would like 2 separate answers here. First of all, how do you make sure anonymity is going to be maintained? And then how confidentiality is going to be ensured. What, if any, is a particular vulnerability of your informants? Now, you might actually identify that there is no vulnerability of your informants because they're of the age of consent, they are business people, or they are well-informed individuals on the topic area of discussion. However, and answer at the end, however, if there is vulnerability of your informants, you would stop researching and get advice from your supervisor or from the Kimmy Business School Research Ethics Committee chairperson. The next section actually again has 2 subsections to it, that how you're going to ensure that the informants know the purpose of the research, and then how you're going to ensure that the informants know what they are going to inform about. You might refer to the information sheet that you provide the respondent with or the interviewee with, and how you're going to explain the various parts of the research to the informants. G has again 2 subsections here: their right to refuse to participate and their right to withdraw at any time. How would you handle any unforeseen safety issues should they arise? Don't just say that no issues will arise. Just say that you are aware that you will deal with the research or conduct the research in a safe environment, maybe in a public place where there will be no issues of compromising the safety of the participant and of the researcher. However, if any unforeseen safety issues do arise, you stop doing the research and then you get the advice of your supervisor and the KBS Research Ethics Committee. There is really a prescribed answer to section 4I, and that's storing the information. Here we would expect that the information is stored on a encrypted USB key, a Word document that is protected by a password that is only known to the researcher. And if you are doing any printed questionnaires or information sheets that they sign, that they are going to be stored in a locked filing cabinet for 7 years. And you can say that the information will be stored then in your supervisor's office. There is an addition to the KBS Research Ethics form that has been added quite recently, and that is insurance cover. And this is required for all research carried out by UL employees, which ostensibly is UL students as well. You need to ensure that you are covered by insurance research. And if you're unsure about this, you email insurance@ul.ie to confirm that the required level of insurance cover is in place. Your supervisor will be able to give you more advice on this should you require it. Here you are required to have the signature of the principal investigator and the supervisor's signature as well. I mentioned that there could be instances where you may actually answer yes to Part A, Section 1 through to 3. You then need to actually complete another section of the Research Ethics form. And that will be discussed in the next couple of slides. However, if you have answered no to all of the questions in Part A, Sections 1, 2, 3, you then just have to sign this Research Ethics form, give it to your supervisor to sign and date, and then photocopy it 8 times and return it to either Michelle Cunningham directly or to the drop box that is typically on level 3 in the Chemie Business School. So what is Part B of the Research Ethics form? Part B is basically a series of questions that asks you to expand on your ethical considerations. And there's a word count limit, and it's 300 words per question. So you must answer the following 3 questions if you've answered yes to sections 1 through to 3. What are the ethical issues involved in your research? Why human subjects are essential to your research project? And how you will ensure that informed consent is freely given by human participants. So these 3 questions are fundamental to answer should you have answered yes to sections 1 through to 3. Now the following questions 4 through to 8 are relevant to your research project and after consultation with your supervisor and a member of the KBS Research Ethics Committee. How will you protect human participants if your research deals with sensitive issues? How you will ensure that vulnerable participants are protected. How you will protect participants if your research deals with sensitive research procedures. Outline how you intend to comply with any established procedures which have been approved by ULRIG for your research, and how you will manage data protection issues. Now, you will see that it's underlined where relevant. To know whether or not these 4 questions are relevant, it will depend on your conversation with your supervisor and also the member of the Research Ethics Committee in the KBS. So the research ethics submission dates, these vary year on year, and they will be emailed to you by your lecturer for the thesis or the strategic commercialization plan. Again, return the 8 copies to Michelle Cunningham or her nominate, and typically there's also a Dropbox up on level 3 of the Chemie Business School. So that's the research ethics form. You can't conduct primary research until you have got research ethics approval. Be aware of the fact that it can take a month for feedback to be given to you by the Research Ethics Committee. You may actually get approval subject to you emailing the KBS chairman and explaining maybe some of your answers. And he or she will respond fairly quickly, and that's within a week to those responses. Or you may actually just get an email from Michelle Cunningham or her nominate to actually say that you have been granted research ethics approval. So I'm just going to actually give you a 7-stage process to the research ethics approval. So you basically complete the application form in consultation with your supervisor, and all applications should be accompanied by an information sheet. A consent form may also be relevant in some cases. You then submit the application form. The committee reviews the application and gives feedback. Where necessary, you may have to revise the application and return it to the chairperson of the KBS Research Ethics Committee. You will then be granted, hopefully, research ethics approval, and then you contact research participants with an information sheet seeking consent to participate in the research project. You then conduct the research. For students who actually want to have doctors who are employed by the HSE or involving patients in hospitals, you actually have to get HSE research ethics approval rather than Chemie Business School research ethics approval. If you talk to the chairperson of the Chemie Business School Research Ethics Committee, he or she will be able to give you more advice on this. Overall application procedures are that it must be typed. Handwritten applications will not be accepted. You need to ensure that you have all relevant signatures, and that is your supervisor and all members of the team that are applying for research ethics approval. Your application will be reviewed at the next KBS Research Ethics Committee meeting, but be aware that during the summer months they don't meet. So you need to make sure that you're aware of the dates of submission. So what are the implications of actually conducting primary research but having no research ethics approval? Well, it can be and would be a disciplinary matter, and also will have an impact on the grade received. It is based on a case-by-case basis, and it will be decided by the relevant course board, meaning the disciplinary course board may be based on the Chemie Business School Research Ethics Committee board. The main principle of the research ethics policy of the University of Limerick is that informants participating in research are provided with information on the project they are participating in. Basically, it will include details of what is expected of them, arrangements for confidentiality, explanation of how the information will be collected, and their right as informants. Where relevant, you may need to also explicitly get participants' consent to participate by signing a consent form, or by providing an indication of consent on the questionnaire itself. This could be the first question on the questionnaire, and by participating in the questionnaire, that is informed consent. What about providing or conducting research with participants under the age of 18? For research done in schools, it is vital that the school give informed consent to the research being carried out. The teacher involved with the particular student group may also need to give their informed consent. For this type of research, we recommend that an opt-out letter be sent to parents, where they are given an information sheet on the research which is proposed, indicating that they do not want their child involved in the research. They can opt out of the research project. Where the subject matter of the research is particularly sensitive or contentious, it may be necessary to get the express permission of parents to conduct the research, even in schools. And in these circumstances, an opt-in letter should be sent to parents. Where research is being conducted with participants under the age of 18, an opt-in consent form is vital. It may also be necessary to have an independent observer present at the time the research is being carried out to safeguard the welfare of the participants. Sometimes research is carried out in a classroom which does not involve direct communication with the students themselves. In these circumstances, it is advisable to inform parents that the research is being carried out by way of an opt-out letter. In all cases involving research on participants under the age of 18, reference should be made to the University of Limerick Child Protection Guidelines, and the acceptance of these guidelines should be indicated through the Child Protection Form, and these are available online through the UL website. For all categories of research, applicants should fill in the Child Protection Guidelines and have Garda clearance. The signed Child Protection Declaration should be included with the application form. Guidelines for faculty doing research involving university students. The title here says faculty, but I'm also including you as students participating in research involving university students. Surveys are often carried out using students as participants. Students should always be made aware that they do not have to participate in the research, and anonymity should always be respected. It is suggested that where possible, an external individual should conduct the research, and that the anonymized data should be presented to the researcher. These are general guidelines. However, it is anticipated that there may be exceptions to these general principles, such as a member of the Teaching and Learning Committee or centre is not available. You then may involve your supervisor in gathering the information on university students. Guidelines where identity is revealed. On occasion, it will be impossible to produce meaningful research while protecting the identity of the research participant. Where this is the case, interviewees should be told about the general purpose of the research before the interview begins, which is best done through a preliminary independent contact so that the interviewee has time to reflect on any concerns they may have about the topic under investigation. If guarantees of anonymity are given, these should always be respected. Permission for direct quotation needs to be obtained. The researcher should establish whether the permission for quotation has a time limit. Transcripts. The informant should be offered the opportunity to review the transcript. If the interview has not been tape recorded, but instead the researcher has reconstructed the conversation from notes or shorthand, then the review of the transcript is essential. If the interview is used extensively for published work, the informant should be sent a copy of the final publication, or at least photocopies of the sections in which their own words appear should be sent to them. Guidelines regarding email surveys and consent. Surveys will often be sent by email, with participants being asked to click a link and fill in the survey at an online resource such as SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics. In the case of not being getting a signed consent form, along with the information sheet contained in the email, the issues relating to consent should also be included, along with a statement to the effect that by clicking the link, the participant is deemed to consent, though he or she may withdraw at any time. Then guidelines regarding the storage of information. Information should be secured in a secured place, such as a locked cabinet in an office or on password-protected encrypted files. All data must be kept for 7 years after collection. Guidelines regarding information sheets and consent forms. They should all have the official UL logo at the top of the page. They should include contact details of the primary investigator, the researcher, and the KBS Research Ethics Committee Chair. Where the researcher is a student, contact details of their supervisor should also be included. The following is a copy of the information sheet that is to be included with the form, and also that could be on the email or on the online survey. It should include a brief description of the topic and method being used. The description should briefly explain what a participant will be expected to do, the amount of time involved for the participant, where the research will take place, will the participant have any say in this choice of venue, any risks or benefits to participant, explanation of participants' right to anonymity, the right to withdraw or refuse to participate at any time, the contact information details of the researcher, supervisor, chair of the KBS Research Ethics Committee, or the chair of ULRIC, whichever is appropriate. What does a consent form look like? A consent form is such as the following. I, the undersigned, declared that I am willing to participate in research for the project. And here you identify the name of the research project. And you would actually type out the rest of this information here, and you would get the signature of the participant. Or if you want to use an electronic means, you would actually then indicate that by continuing with this research, you are indicating your consent. That is the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for participating.